Anthony Slater's been the star of the show out there in Milwaukee, setting up the Mike Brown laptop gate press conference that he got fined $50,000 for. Anthony Slater joins us as he does every single week on the Boxer Gerson guest line. Anthony, man, what's going on?
What's up, fellas?
How you doing, man? How you doing this morning?
I'm cold, man. It's been a cold trip. Really cold trip. I haven't been in weather that's like above 22 degrees in about a week.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like Outcast.
Yeah.
It's cold.
You and the Dolphins have something in common. You and the Dolphins have something.
Yeah. We right away, I thought maybe at the end you guys would start getting
No. You know, we knew you guys.
No, we stick the knife in quickly.
Yeah, we do. I just asked Philadelphia here, but unfortunately, before our show, about 5:45 or whatever it was, Dejan, man, assistant coach of the Golden State Warriors, Dejan Milojevic, hospitalized. What'd you know about that?
Yeah, team dinner last night, medical emergency as the team's kind of put out in a Salt Lake City hospital right now. And they've canceled shoot around this morning. They were supposed to have shoot around. That's no longer happening. So, not a ton of details out there. What you've heard is what's kind of known, but yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's really our prayers go out to him, and obviously we're pulling for him. And there's no easy transition, but I want to start with Draymond. A pod dropped in my inbox this morning from Draymond Green, and the other night, it's his first game back, and he's sitting there talking about defense at the podium. And maybe I'm too in the weeds. I found it to be kind of like, really, dude? You've been out for like 1,000 games this year, and you have the audacity to come back after one night where you looked okay and talk about other people's effort on defense. I don't know. It smacked as disingenuous. Am I the only one that feels that way?
Yeah, I do think he has tried to like curb it a few times. You've probably heard, even I think maybe in the podcast, but definitely at the podium with like, he'll be going down the road of kind of criticizing others and be like, and let's start with me being suspended like over half the season to this point. Like, he'll at least mention that fact. But also, I just think what's happening is like he's coming back to now an 18-22 team that is 25th in the league in defense, that was 29th in the league in defense while he was gone, and it's just like, I got to fix this, and I got to fix this as quick as possible. And part of his way of fixing it is publicly calling people out, and I can understand why that rubs people the wrong way, but his belief is like it needs to get solved, and this is part of solving it. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think it's personnel problems right now, especially with Gary Payton out and Andrew Wiggins having the season he's having. But it's what he's always tried to do: fix stuff not only through actions but words. And it may fall on deaf ears, but he's trying.
He's trying, and it may not be good enough with this basketball team right now after what we saw in Memphis on MLK Day. And I read your latest piece in The Athletic. Of course, Anthony Slater, our Warriors insider for The Athletic here at 95.7 The Game. You chronicled the offense in that one. It was very interesting, and you had some breakdowns of the film, as you always do, and it was atrocious. Now, defensively, I'm thinking to myself, man, they're overhelping, wide open threes. Memphis, worst team in the league when it comes to three-point percentage. They make 20, which is the most the Warriors have given up in a game this season, ironically, especially after those blowout losses to the Raptors and the Pelicans. But damn, offensively, the young Memphis Grizzlies just befuddled the Warriors. And again, the problem was careless turnovers, Anthony.
Yeah, and it starts at the top, right? And Steph had 5, dribbled off his leg out of bounds, got his pocket picked by Jacob Gilyard at one point, was kind of like bobbling passes. And turnovers hadn't been that big an issue lately. I think, they had been like, a top 6 team in the league and like fewest turnovers over the last, half month or so. But hopped up at the wrong time. And honestly, you were talking to coaches post game, especially after they like rewatch film. And they're like, they didn't think the defense was that bad in that game. A lot of the defensive issues were, you're scrambling in transition because their point guard just, pick your pocket and it's a 4-on-3 going the other way. Like a lot of times defensive breakdowns can happen if you put yourself in compromising situations. And I thought they did. And there's a lot of ways to I think criticize, how the offense looked. I thought there was a lot, too much Dario Saric, right? He's like mid-post ISO and against David Roddy and trying various things. So, wasn't great, but again, I do think the defense is a big picture issue. I just thought the offense was really bad the other day.
Are they going to make a trade? Like, I feel like that's what it's coming down to. Like, the Warrior fans just want to know, like, are they making a trade or not? And I might argue it might be more depressing if they don't swing any deal. I think people will be furious.
Yeah, it's being explored. I'll say that. I'm curious where this Pascal Siakam situation ends up. Obviously, our Shams and Sam Amick reported that Indiana seems to be getting closer, and the Pacers do seem like a more natural landing spot for a team that's like set to view Siakam as a core piece of their young core moving forward. But I know they've at least they've sniffed around in that market for sure, and they'll look at other stuff. But I think we're at the point where we can maybe take a step back and be like, what is the best? I agree. I think everyone kind of agrees that some kind of shakeup is needed, but is the best strategy to like obsessively try to make this team as good as possible this season, regardless of their future assets, or is it, kind of a reset, not a rebuild? You're going to have Steph Curry next season. You're going to want to compete, but I think the next 3 seasons becomes a bigger priority than like the next couple months, just because I don't know that you can save the next couple months.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Anthony. When you look at the team and talk about their defensive woes, what are they, like second to last or last? The last 17 games when it comes to defensive rating, they're giving up points. And I don't know if there's a trade out there that could get them over the hump. Right now, they're out of the box, which means they're not even in the play-in situation right now. Utah has leapfrogged them, and we'll get to them in just a second because they're probably the hottest team in the NBA. So I don't know what a trade could do. Can it catapult them to the top 6? I highly doubt it, Anthony.
Well, I think like Siakam is a good example of what we're talking about, where he's an expiring contract, and he has made it pretty clear. They were down the road with the Kings on maybe a trade going there, but like he's not ready to re-sign and commit. Like he kind of wants to test free agency, and this is a time where if you are a Pascal Siakam, you go into free agency. There's not that many other free agents out there. There's probably a payday coming for him, so it'd be really expensive to potentially keep him around, and risky that whatever you give up, you may end up 4 months from now having nothing for it if he goes elsewhere. So, like, is that the right move considering the risk? Especially because if he ain't turning you into a title contender, and we can sit here and debate if you guys think Pascal Siakam would turn them into a title contender, then it might impact your future negatively if you go make a rush trade like that.
I just don't think any Warrior fan thinks that they could solve this year. I think almost all of us believe that like this has got to be a 2-year window outside of this year, like the next 2 years, and giving yourself the most flexibility for whatever that means, whatever that requires. Now, in a Pascal Siakam trade, don't you retain his bird rights?
Yeah, I mean, you have the ability to like give him the max, which he's going to desire. Do you think that's good business?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm paying Siakam max money, Anthony. He's 29 years old. I'd have a hard time giving him a max deal. That's just me personally. I think he's a nice player. He's fine, but 29% from 3, I don't know, man.
The other thing here is like, one person's money impacts the other person's money now in this Warriors world, because they're not wanting to get into the second apron next season, and a lot of the decisions that are being made right now or will be made in the next month have to do with the future financials. Chris Paul is valuable to them because he's an expiring $30 million per year. Andrew Wiggins' contract, if you talk about maybe repositioning yourself, I mean, we may just be talking about, is it wise to just try to get off Andrew Wiggins' contract? Maybe not for much coming back, but just for like expiring deals, so you just have more flexibility. What does Klay Thompson's number become next year? Is Klay Thompson around next season?
Right.
Some of those questions. And if you bring a Siakam in, like that is a huge chunk of money that you're, basically thinking you're going to commit to, which, like I said, probably means there's other people around that may not be here next.
Anthony Slater here on the Morning Ross on 95.7 Games. We talk Dubs. They take on the Utah Jazz today in Salt Lake City. Shams Charania, your partner over there at the Athletic, basically reported that everybody's on the block with the exception of Steph and Curry. That also means Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, which would mean to break up the core. Where are we at with Klay Thompson? We sure Klay Thompson would even want to re-sign with this team right now, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I think Klay Thompson holds like a deep appreciation for what they've built, over the last decade. And I think if Klay Thompson could script out his career in an ideal way, it would be like be with the Warriors forever, right? Be next to Steph Curry, until he retires. And we'll see, what will the financials be? Right. Not only what are the Warriors potentially, willing to give him, but what's the market potentially willing to give him?
What are you hearing on his market, Klay Thompson?
Yeah. We'll see. there's a reason to be kind of skeptical because the way at times he's played this season, his age, his injury history, all that. But then it's like the fact is he's still an elite 3-point shooter that can get going. He has that championship medal that I do think attracts like young teams. And you look at, Houston, for example, what they did this summer, they cashed out Fred VanVleet. They tried to cash out Brooke Lopez. They gave Dylan Brooks, $20+ million a year. And that's the type of team, like if whereas at this point last season, you didn't know Houston was going down that path, right? All you heard was, I don't know, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know who their coach is going to be next year. And they probably are going to try to go get James Harden. Well, they completely shifted once Ime Udoka got in there. So I don't think we know, because I think Klay Thompson is going to need a team like that in that type of situation. It's like, look, we got cap space to play with. We're trying to speed up the timeline. We want to get a veteran in here with championship experience who can hit a bunch of threes, be super competitive, teach our youngsters some stuff. And maybe they do, give him way more than the Warriors are willing to give him and pry him away. That's the situation where I do think that maybe it is possible he's gone. But at the same time, my guess still at this point is he's back on a reasonable contract, because I think the market will be suppressed enough. And I think there's still enough of a desire to keep the partnership going because of what it means to both parties. But we'll see.
Where's Steph at? Like, what are you hearing about Steph Curry? Bonte and I were just kicking it around, like, hypothetically, all these superstars tend to get frustrated, it feels like, and he's so rare. He has never gotten frustrated and wanted to leave, but he can't be happy right now, right? Like, what is Steph thinking?
Well, obviously he's frustrated with the record. He's frustrated with the team's play. I don't think he's been, that excited about his individual play over the last month, right? The shooting percentages are down. I don't think he's had some terrific defensive season. Right. But also, one thing you say, like, Steph Curry kind of like greenlit this roster construction, right? I think we all know, like, he was at least nodded in agreement on the Chris Paul, Jordan Poole swap. And he wanted more veterans, and he wants Draymond Green around. He wants Klay Thompson around. They were really excited about what the front office had delivered them from a roster standpoint preseason, right? I mean, we all remember this. So the fact is, like, the team that they thought was going to perform hasn't been performing. So it's difficult for him to go, however you want to term it, like LeBron James on it, and either try to get out or demand all these type of changes. And the other thing is that's just not his nature, right? He kind of views himself in the Derek Jeter realm, the Tim Duncan realm, the Dirk Nowitzki realm. I don't in any way expect him to suddenly just, try to move himself out of town. Now, I do think there's a desire to, like, he kind of hinted at it at the podium, but, like, stuff has to change somewhat. But I think there's a commitment long term that he still wants to be with the Warriors and figure it out here.
Yeah, we were just kicking around, like, what if he does get disgruntled? Because things shift quickly with these NBA superstars, and you would know better than anybody. You've covered this league for a long time, Anthony. Now we look at the Utah Jazz today, and losing to the Memphis Grizzlies, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm not surprised with the way the season has played out for the Golden State Warriors, but still, it was basically the Memphis Hustle and the Memphis Grizzlies beating up on the Golden State Warriors and hitting threes left and right. Gigi Jackson is a name I'll never forget now because of that game. Now you play Utah, another young team with athleticism, rim protection. It feels like everybody in the West ahead of them has some sort of rim protection that the Warriors don't have, and they're the hottest team in the league. So everybody that was talking about Lauri Markkanen being traded, what is Utah going to do now? Because they won 12 or 14, Anthony, and they beat some big boys.
Yeah, they had this type of record this time last season, and Danny Ainge was like, man, don't care. Like, traded Mike Conley, traded Jared Vanderbilt, right? He was and, basically take their season in a sense. Like, so the sense you get is this Utah management, which is in like a multi-year, rebuild right now, is not just, over the moon because they, like you said, they've won 12 or 14. So I don't think they're going to just, try to chase the 6th seed, but right now they're definitely playing better basketball than pretty much anybody in the league, but certainly the Warriors. They've now leaped the Warriors by a few games in the standings, which again makes tonight kind of a big game. But I was on last week and we were talking about how big the Pelicans are.
Right.
What happened that night?
Yeah, they got smoked.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I haven't looked at the line. Maybe you guys know it. Like, I'm sure the Warriors are like dogs tonight.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. I'm going to check it out right now before you get off the air, Anthony. The Warriors are Actually, 3.5-point underdogs, which is surprising to me.
That's lighter than I would have expected, right?
I would absolutely with the way the Warriors are playing. All right, finally, before we get you out of here, Kuminga, what's going on with him? He's playing some damn good basketball. All the Wiggins minutes, and I'm with you on the Wiggins contract. Maybe you just move off of that because Kuminga's playing so well. I mean, the guy's balling right now. He's been their second best player over the last 2 weeks.
By the way, not only playing well, but extension eligible this summer. And it wouldn't kick in theoretically for 2 years, right? You still are on the rookie deal in your fourth year, but decisions are coming on his financial future, which is why I think you felt some urgency from him this season to figure out where his career is going. Number one, but two, I think it complicates the calculus at the deadline with this whole Wiggins Kuminga. They can or can't they play together? Because if you can get off the Wiggins money, suddenly you're freed up. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what do you hear about Wiggins? Now that we're here, I know we're going to get you out of here. Love is yo, we got to let him go. We got to move on. We got to give out this Chris McCaffrey, qualify people for Chris McCaffrey jersey and all that stuff. We got some special things happening in a second. But Andrew Wiggins, I mean, the guy, Anthony, I don't know what I'm going to get from the guy every single day. What has happened to Andrew Wiggins?
I mean, he's obviously having the worst offensive season of his career, so this is
that's all.
Yeah, this is abnormal. But as far as what you're going to get every night, I mean, talk to Minnesota people, right? This is what they were screaming for years. It's why the Warriors got him on such a discount. He did, as I've said before, he kind of turned into Kawhi Leonard for 2 months in the playoffs and got the Warriors about as valuable a title as you'll ever see, right? I mean, we all know they don't get it without that, but in some ways, this has kind of been who he's mostly been for his career. Now they need his offense to just turn back around. Because even in Minnesota, when people were frustrated with his day-to-day play, he was still 18 a game on decent percentages. That's gone right now. At a time in his career you wouldn't expect it to be, right? He's in the middle of his prime.
Yeah, it's sad. I don't know what the hell to do with him. Anthony Slater, follow him at The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter. He's our 95.7 Game Insider. He does a great job with the best beat writer out there in America, I believe, man. He gives you everything, breaks down the field, breaks down what's going on with the game. And they have a tough time today in Salt Lake City. Stay warm, my friend.
All right, fellas.
All right.
You bring up Andrew Wiggins. And thank you, Anthony Slater, there.